All right, Zander, why don't we bring this gentleman on here and get an early start here with some good, bad, and ugly. The good is going to be about the local team, and that, of course, is being Sal Paolantonio, the host of the NFL Matchup Show, the author of How Football Explains America. Sal, how you doing?
Good, Pat. Good. Happy Thanksgiving week to you and your family and everybody listening and watching this week in pro football, and everybody at JAKIB Media, our producer Zander. Happy Thanksgiving. And, man, when your team is on a 7-game win streak at home here in the Philadelphia region, people are happy. People are happy. I think people have turned the page from being ambivalent and cautious to, okay, we got something here. This guy may win the MVP. Sure. We may win the division, and we may get to the Super Bowl. It's a little different now, Pat.
I know. ESPN Bet had, after going into Week 12, they had Saquon at 6,000 to 1 MVP odds. Today, 650 to 1. Right. So he apparently
77% of the bets.
Yeah.
And 75% of the money right now on ESPN Bet are on Saquon Barkley to win the MVP. Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah. That was a big, big statement win for Philadelphia Sunday night. I will tell you, Sean Green could back it up. Zander could also affirm that I called it my lock of the year last week. I thought the Eagles were definitely going to cover what I thought was a measly number against the Rams, but I think the game went a lot further than that, didn't it, Sal? Did it say more about how strongly the Eagles are playing, or is it just a matter of the fact that no matter who the Eagles play, the competition seems weak?
Well, Pat, there are several patterns during this 7-game win streak, and the first one that's very obvious is the team starts slow offensively and then gains momentum. And then the superior strength and size of the offensive line just demoralizes the opposition.
Yeah.
And Saquon's got power to speed. He's got great moves. He's obviously feeling like he knows what he's doing. He said after the game to Melissa Stark on Sunday Night Football, quote, "I came to Philadelphia because I think I can rewrite my story." Oh, okay.
Right.
Wow. That's the first. So I've interviewed him 3 times, one of them one-on-one in August. That's the first time I heard him say that. And he's saying it now because he believes what he's doing is going to rewrite the story of Saquon Barkley. And moreover, the story of the NFL, because for years in this decade, there's been a devaluation of the running back.
Right.
And we've seen Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, and the best example of all, Saquon Barkley, changing teams and changing the fortunes of their teams.
They certainly have. I mean, Saquon, you talk about rewriting a story. Well, he's on about a 3rd edition right now, Saga. He is the talk, isn't he? He's the talk of the NFL right now. But you mentioned that Eagle offensive line. It was so notable to me, Sal, because you've heard me talk about this, how defensive lines, if they're small, they wear down into December and November and December. And the Eagles look to me to outweigh that Ram defensive line by about 50 pounds a guy. And I think it's going to continue to pay bigger dividends as you get into late December and January.
Right. And what you see early on is these defensive lines have some wins. You know, they're able to win on pass rush win or blocking or whatever to get to the quarterback or to get some kind of negative yardage. But then as the game progresses, they get worn down again by the superior size. So I know you look at my Instagram, Sal Pal ESPN, and one of the more popular ones that I've done in the last 3 weeks is on right now. And it's based on this next level Gens X stats. I don't even know what you call it. Stat.
Right.
Against the Rams, I'm going to just give you this number. It's going to blow you away. The Eagles had 264 rush yards before contact.
Yeah.
That's their most in a game since ESPN began tracking that stat in 2009, and the most by any team in 7 years. And Saquon Barkley had 213 rush yards before contact himself, the most by any player since the stat has been tracked, which means he ran the ball, Pat, with the rock in his hands in an NFL game in prime time for 213 yards before any Rams defender laid a glove on him.
Yeah. I mean, that's almost impossible to do. Of course, you had the 2 long runs, and I don't know, maybe one or both of them entered into that stat, but it's just ridiculous. To even run 70 yards without anybody touching you is almost impossible.
Twice.
Yeah, to do it twice. Also, according to ESPN stats and information, you had sent to me, Saquon is on pace to run for 2,000 yards at an average of 6 yards a carry. He's at 6.2 right now. And as you pointed out, the last time that was the only time that was done, and not when no player has ever done that and not won MVP. The last guy to do it, Adrian Peterson in 2012. So maybe they could dust off that old bromide about it. It's always a quarterback award, because right now this guy, he is a serious contender.
He is. So only 2 NFL players in the illustrious 100-year plus history of the league have rushed for 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns, and averaged 6 yards per carry through the first 11 games. They are Saquon Barkley and Jim Brown.
Oh.
That's the list.
Okay. That's not a bad list to be on, Sal.
So, when you're in the same sentence with Jim Brown.
And nobody else. Yeah, that is a statement right there.
You just shake your head and you're like,
yeah,
okay,
that is serious company.
That's why he said to Melissa Stark, I'm out to rewrite my history.
Well, I think, and it's funny, when we get back, Sal, from this short break here, what I want to do is I want to ask you, who is Saquon reminding you of? And I'm not jumping the gun on this guy, the fact that he's playing so well. It's just his running style. I'd like to get your take on who he reminds you of in terms of the NFL's greats. I also want to look at the 2 schedules of the Eagles and the Lions. Yes, I'm going to break my show's rule, and I wanted to see if, in your opinion, there's even a chance that the Eagles can grab that much coveted number 1 seed off these Detroit Lions, because that, to me, is what's left to do. We're going to do all that with Sal Paolantonio next as we continue on a Thanksgiving edition of This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy Auto. Welcome back to This Week in Pro Football. Pat Callahan joining you on JAKIB Sports here with the great Sal Paolantonio. As I want to get back to Saquon and the Eagles and that schedule, Sal, but if I could just finish here, Zander, if you could bring up at standings, I just want to finish the good and the bad and the ugly here, Sal. Get your take on Minnesota giving up 17 fourth quarter points to that woeful Bears offense and nearly losing the game. And the segue, Sal, is if you look at that NFC, I mean, is there anyone besides Detroit? Look at Minnesota at 9-2. Are you a believer at all in the 9-2 Vikings?
Well, Pat, I know we are getting ahead of ourselves, so let's do it for a second. So, of these playoff contenders, who do you worry about? Who are you concerned about coming into Philadelphia and beating the Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not even concerned that Detroit can do it. I don't think there's a team that can come in and beat the Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field. If you have to go on the road and play Minnesota or go on the road and play Detroit, that will be difficult. That will be hard. There's no question about that. Both of those places are difficult environments to play in. Both of them have great defensive coordinators and a very active and energetic front seven. So both of them will be hard. If it so happens that you have to go to Seattle, that would be hard. Atlanta, no. Washington, no. Arizona, no. So, it's 2 places really. Yeah. But I don't think either one of them are a problem coming into Philadelphia. If the Eagles were to get the number 1 seed, I don't see how they don't punch their ticket to New Orleans.
That's fair. That's a fair comment. And I would actually, I guess, shrink it a little further and say to you that I don't believe in Minnesota. I don't believe in Green Bay. I don't believe that Sam Darnold or Jordan Love can beat the Philadelphia Eagles the way they're going right now. I just don't buy it. And Washington, I think, was a little bit exposed, Sal, last week, and the NFC South and NFC West. I think there's a appreciable difference between the football being played in Philadelphia and Detroit and the entire rest of the NFC.
Well, I think Green Bay is a little bit of an issue. If you have to go to Green Bay for sure, I would see that because they got the running back. I mean,
Yeah.
Pat, you got to look at what the way the game is being played right now, right? So this is the first time since 1978 that two teams are playing one another, the Eagles and the Ravens, that are averaging over 150 yards per game rushing. So we are back to medieval football, 70s football, Pat,
Yeah.
with these two teams. You remember the 70s, Pat. They went out and changed the rules in the game because it was getting to be so difficult to watch.
Right.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Now, you have two dual threat quarterbacks, and we can go through this game if you want to at some point. I would like to. I think I think this is a possible Super Bowl preview down at M&T Bank Stadium. No question about it.
Right.
Huge game. Huge.
Right. It is. You're right. If you kind of get, I got to stop looking back, start looking forward here. There's too much ugly to even talk about. I'm not going to do it. Zander, thanks. You can pull that. The ugliness is all over. I'm not going to talk about the New York Giants anymore. I'm just not going to do it, Sal. They bounce off the bottom, a new bottom every week, but the heck with that. Instead, I want to circle back now to Barkley and just ask you with what's going on with him. Who does he remind you of? His running style, especially over the last few weeks. I mean, he's extremely quick the way he hits the hole. And he seems to have a tremendous knack for following his blocks, and boom, he's through the hole like that. Does his running style remind you of anybody?
He's a freaky combination of different backs. I think he's definitely got his own style. He is power to speed like Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is more upright like Eric Dickerson.
Right.
And Saquon is a little bit like Shady McCoy, for sure, a little bit like Barry Sanders. But Sanders did not have that power. Sanders had, of course, great maneuverability between the tackles and the ability to miss tackles or make them miss, which is what Saquon has. Derrick Henry just steamrolls you.
Right.
He's not a make-you-miss guy.
Right.
And he runs upright like Eric Dickerson. But when Dickerson hit the hole, it was like he was shot literally out of a cannon.
I know.
And that's the way these two guys are.
Yeah.
So there's only been two backs to reach a running speed of over 21 miles per hour this year. And they are Barkley and Henry. And they're playing in this game.
Yeah. And they're sizable guys too. Let me hit you with two names and just tell me quickly if you think I'm on the track here. Todd Gurley in his prime. I'm talking about 2017 now.
Yep.
I mean, he
Terrell Davis is another one.
Yeah, Davis, I thought of him too.
Davis was a function of a really great Shanahan running system, that outside zone read run that made Clinton Portis, Terrell Davis, and others
and many
very,
others.
very good.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And the other name I'll hit you with is Curtis Martin. Very savvy, very smart runner, but again, a guy who could catch it, who could run with it, who could find the holes.
Hall of Famer. Hall of Famer. TD, Hall of Famer.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. Curtis Martin, Hall of Famer. Eric Dickerson, Hall of Famer. We're talking about Hall of Famers here, Pat. It's crazy.
I just promised I wouldn't do it, and here I am. But I got to ask you this question. What does it say about the New York Giants organization? This guy was lining up in their backfield for 6 years, and they never seemingly could figure out what to do with him. I mean, what does that say about the fact that no one thought, you know what, we got to bulk up this offensive line, and this is our meal ticket, and we're going to go?
Well, the Eagles have the best offensive line coach in the NFL. That's Jeff Stoutland. It's called Stoutland University for a reason. They took Mailata, who was a rugby player, and picked, I think, in the 7th round from Australia. Had never blocked anybody in his life in an NFL game. And now he's making $1 gazillion as a Pro Bowl left tackle.
Yeah.
So that's Jeff Stoutland.
Yeah.
I mean, when you got the best offensive line coach and you got a perennial Pro Bowl right tackle in Lane Johnson, who's going to Canton, and you had Jason Kelce going to Canton, and you got Mailata, who's a mountain of a man and has really learned the position under this tutelage of this coach. There's no comparison, Pat, between what the Giants do and what the Eagles do year in and year out. And, you know, I grew up in New York. I grew up around Giants fans and Jets fans my whole life. And it is amazing to me that you have all this power and money in New York, and they can't figure out how to get their football teams out of the dumpster fire.
That's
It's
amazing,
crazy.
Sal. It
It's
is.
crazy.
I'm telling you, we could devote a whole show to it. I'm
Yeah.
going to sometime over the summer. I might do it.
And I'm
Drag
not
you.
lamenting the fact
Yeah,
because I'm here now, and
yeah,
Eagles fans and the Eagles organization, someone said to me when I was on the road last week or 2 weeks ago, Sal, what's up with your fan base? And I looked at him and I said, Philadelphia doesn't have a fan base. Philadelphia has a family. It has a
yeah,
community of people
yeah,
that support
yeah,
one goal and one team, and
yeah,
that's the Philadelphia Eagles.
yeah,
Don't talk to me about fan bases. You
yeah.
have a fan base. Philadelphia has a family.
That's fair enough. Fair enough and well put. All right, before we get to Eagles Ravens, I just want to do this with you. I'm going to rattle off to you the remaining schedule of these two teams because, as I mentioned, I'm positing anyway that it's Eagles Lions, and it's just a matter of where it's going to be. But I want you to tell me, listening to these two remaining schedules, whether the Eagles have a legitimate shot to make up this game on Detroit. The Eagles at Baltimore, home to Carolina, home to Pittsburgh, at Washington, Cowboys, and then the Giants. I think that's at minimum, Sal, 4 wins, if not 5 wins there for Philadelphia.
Yeah, there are pitfalls in that schedule, and it's going to take a lot of discipline. You just lost Brandon Graham. Bryce Huff is coming back who knows when from the wrist injury.
Right.
So you're a little shorthanded on pass rush.
Right.
And some other players are going to have to fill in those gaps.
All right.
I am personally have been on the soapbox of somehow, I don't know how you do it, take the best player in the NFL off the field, Saquon Barkley, and give him a little rest. At this point, I'm barking up the wrong tree because it's just not going to happen. They're not going to take him off the field. I mean, he's gunning for 2,000 yards. He's gunning for All Pro. He's gunning for the MVP.
Right.
You can't take him off the field.
Yeah.
But Jalen Hurts had 22 pass attempts.
Yeah.
22
on
Sunday night.
Yeah.
The Eagles are last in the league in pass attempts, Pat.
Yeah.
Last. So they're going to have to create more balance offensively. They're going to have to be more productive.
Yeah.
And it starts with this game. Why? The Ravens are good at two things defensively: stopping the run and rushing the passer. I think they're third in sacks, but they're 31st in pass defense. And they've given up the most pass plays of 15 yards or more. Yeah. And the Eagles have connected on the most pass plays of 15 yards or more. So Jalen Hurts, in my humble opinion, I'm not a coach, in my film study and analysis, has got to win from the pocket, Pat, in the first half of this game.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Sal, maybe I owe Lamar a little bit of an apology, Sal, because I've been on him forever, October Lamar, but he is playing very well this year. He's number 1 in the NFL in passing yards. That's amazing, and to me anyway, for a team that has a Derrick Henry, and yet Jackson really
does he ever even have a Pro Bowl receiver?
No, that's right. And his yards, they come in gulps. If you watch
Zay
the Ravens
Flowers
play,
is not going to the Pro Bowl.
No.
Probably not.
But
I mean, he's got Mark Andrews, but Mark Andrews has been on and off the field with injuries.
But I think the presence of Henry pulls the secondary and the linebackers way
closer.
Of
course. And also, I mean, he's the ultimate dual threat quarterback. He's the prince of dual threat quarterbacks. And this year they added the King Henry.
Yes.
And so when you got the Prince and the King, you're going to have the number 1 offense and the number 1 passing offense in the National Football League. Oh, this is a tough game.
Yeah.
It's a tough. Listen, Pat, the two places that I've gone to most in my career at ESPN are Lincoln Financial Field and M&T Bank Stadium. I have been around the Ravens. I covered both of their Super Bowl runs. I've covered pretty much every big game of Lamar Jackson's career. I knew last year they were going to lose once they abandoned the run in the AFC Championship game.
Right.
If Todd Monken falls in love with the passing game, Todd Monken's the offensive coordinator of the Ravens.
Right.
If he falls in love with the passing game, Fangio, Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell, Gardner Johnson, Reed Blankenship, they'll eat his lunch.
Yeah. Sal, is there a chance the Eagles will get Devonta Smith back for this game?
I don't know. It's too early in the week. It's Tuesday. They don't put out any kind of practice or injury report till tomorrow.
Right.
Tomorrow is really a glorified walkthrough.
Right.
It's a short week. I'm not sure what the practice schedule is on Thursday for either team on Thanksgiving Day. I think players come in the morning and then they go home and have Thanksgiving with their families. But it's a difficult week. And both teams are coming back from LA. And both teams boat raced their. How funny is this?
Yeah.
The Ravens went out and scored 30 points against the Chargers and won.
Yeah.
The Eagles in the same stadium the night before scored 30 points against the Rams and win.
Right.
And they did it with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, almost a carbon copy of what they did. But it's a long trip, Pat, on a short week.
It is. But it will be interesting. And I don't know. I think the game, obviously, is going to be a lot closer than what the Eagles have been used to, I believe. And you're right. It's been, how long has it been since we've had to say to Jalen Hurts, all right, Jalen, there's 1:05 to go on your own 16-yard line, and you got to get that ball down to the other team's 30 so we can at least get 3. It'll be interesting to see how he reacts. He's done it many, many times, but the Eagles.
Can he throw them into a lead?
Yeah.
Can he throw them out of trouble on third down? And then can he throw them into a win if they have to come from behind in the fourth quarter? Right. This is a huge test. Pat, this will be the number 1 rated regular season game of 2024.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. It's a big one. It's a big game in that regard. It's the biggest game left on Philly's schedule. And but I think the Eagles, Sal, I don't know. I think they're getting on a little bit of a mission here. I like their chances. I like their chances against Lamar Jackson.
Well, they are a 3-point dog, and they are 2-0 outright as an underdog this year. New Orleans and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And I believe both of them were on the road too, right?
They were both on the road. It's funny. You think back to that New Orleans game. The whole season seemed to hang in the balance. Remember, they pulled it out at the end, and now they haven't blinked since Philadelphia. So a great test on Sunday. Listen, I want you to have a good Thanksgiving. I know that you get all of Thursday off, right? You actually are going to take off. Is that correct, pal?
We are going to take off on Thursday, but we'll be back at it. And then, it's buckle up, lace up the boots, straight on through to the Super Bowl. And with the Eagles on a 7-game win streak, there will be no rest for Uncle Sal. I can tell you that right now.
Wow. Look forward to the matchup show then. I know you'll be focusing on Eagles-Ravens, at least some part of the show. So look forward to that, Sal. And I want you to have a nice, easy day Thursday, okay? Watching Giants-Cowboys. That'll grip you nonstop after Detroit buries Chicago. But I want you to enjoy it, and thank you very much for joining me today. Look forward to talking to you again next week.
God bless the Callahan family.
All right. Thank you very much, pal. I appreciate that. Thank you, Sal. All right, Sal Powell joining us right there. One thing before we take a break, just to finish the thought there. Detroit, their final 6. Chicago, Green Bay, their wins. Buffalo at home. Now, that's probably Detroit's toughest game left. Buffalo at home. At Chicago, at San Francisco, which I don't think is a tough game anymore for Detroit, and then home to Minnesota. I think the worst Detroit goes is 14-3. It's going to be a race all the way to the wire, So if Philly wants to get that home field edge, they don't have much margin for error. All right, when we get back, we're going to switch to some little fantasy football here. I can continue my weekly shrieking at Bill Reinhardt, who puts up with it in his usual inimitable fashion. And we'll do that. We'll talk some fantasy, some starts and sits, and Bill's got some Turkey Day one-offs for you. We'll do that next on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Park Bank.